That's true. That was a game. That was standard as fuck. That's the most standard game I played all day. Did you see that? Damn, that was standard. I am just amazed at how standard that game was. Neuro, you're a 2-year subscriber to yourself? Isn't it a conflict of interest? I'm a non-paying subscriber. That's the relationship of the broadcaster to themselves with the sub-icons. Those run-bys, though. That's what I'm telling you, though. Well, we've got some time until the next round. We've got some time until the next round. How's about we go on and explain that game? Because I wasn't saying words. How's about we take a little minute for the fam? We take 5 for the fam. And we explain you some shit. 650 Lingbane Muta. Usually T would shut that down. It depends on skill. So here's the deal. ZvT is just a mechanically intensive battle matchup. A lot of people know what the standard builds are. They know Lingbane Muta. They know what those units are. They know what Widowmines do. Especially GM level players. They know how the matchup works, for the most part, or at least they have some vague sense of what goes on. But the execution of all the right decisions over the course of a very intense matchup, where both people are stabbing the shit out of each other, is hard. It's a hard game. Especially when you're trying to juggle different tasks on different sides of the map. So let's break it down. It surprised me just how standard this game was. So let's take a look at the most standard of standard. Lingbane Muta versus Biomine. How do you get ahead as Zerg? Do you just try and defend the whole time? You can do that, but it ends up getting pretty hairy because the Terran can pre-split all their units and just give you a really bad time. So, the first important relationship in a standard as fuck, ZvT, is the Reaper jumps in and you've got to try not to lose any drones. It's okay to lose a little something. Losing 1 drone is bad. Losing 2 drones is uh-oh. Losing 3 drones, you're basically done at that point. I mean, you can still play out the match, but this is a very, very important interaction. So let's take it nice and slow, just at the regular normal, slower than the ladder speed. And you're trying to pull the workers away from the Reaper. The Lings bite the Reaper whenever the Reaper shoots drones, but they run away whenever the Reaper shoots Lings. So it's less fancy, amazing micro, and more about knowing the procedure, knowing what your drones are supposed to do, knowing what your Lings are supposed to do. If you notice, this drone, as it was about to die, morphed into a spore crawler instead of a spine. Why a spore instead of a spine? It's cheaper. It's 75 minerals as opposed to 100. I take my 3rd pretty fast. I hid that drone, that was my 20th drone. And now we're off to the races. We've got the standard Ling and Reaper. Ling speed is going to kick in, and now I'm going to make probably the most important scout of the game. The first scout, I saw a barracks with a reactor. This could be any number of things. I really don't know what's going on at this point. So, Ling speed finishes up. 5 Lings, I lost 1 of them, will be able to beat the Reaper. So, they're off. They go on the map. And they're off. Now I'm spreading creep, trying to make sure my bases are injected at all times. And then now that I have 2 base mineral saturation, I'm going to be taking my 2nd gas, so I can tech up and stuff. So these Lings came in and I saw a bunch of Marines. This is probably this build. I didn't get to go in and scout everything. One of the benefits of having Marines is they can shoot overlords. So I'm just going to go with the assumption that Marines are the initial plan. I saw several of them. So what do? I drone. I have 45 drones right now, 49 drones, and I go double Evo. So I can take a clear advantage in the game. Terran doesn't have an engineering base, usually they won't. So by taking double Evo before Bane Nest, before a lair, right after Ling speed, you can take the upgrade lead. Get 1-1 faster, 2-2 faster, and potentially 3-3 faster. So when does the double Medivac attack arrive? If you're playing against Beyond or Innovation or something, it'll arrive right before 5 minutes. If you're playing against whatever Master GM player, it'll be after 5 minutes at some point. Sometimes 5:30, sometimes 5:10. It depends a little bit on what corners they cut. This player went for pretty fast engineering bays, so they weren't going for the fastest possible double Medivac Marine. They were just going double Medivac Marine to clear creep and slow the Zerg's map control. So one of the main push and pull of ZvT. Creep. Creep is important whether you're Terran or whether you're Zerg. The only thing that changes is whether you want more of it or less of it. The Terran really wants less creep, because creep means Zerg can take better engagements, Zerg can see what's going on. It's just dangerous. It's dangerous and it's intimidating, and you want to clean it up, and it's gross, if you're thinking from the mind of the Terran. For Zerg, Zerg wants to spread creep as fast as they possibly can. But if Terran is dedicating some units to clearing the creep, you'll need to respread the creep. So it's just a basic mini-game within ZvT. Zerg needs to try, Terran needs to try. The player who's better at that mini-game can create some edge. So what do I have? I have 8 queens at this point. I have a queen injecting the main, queen injecting the natural, queen at the third that's about to inject, and then I have some dedicated defensive creeping queens. At this point, I'm making a few banes. I don't know for sure what the follow-up is going to be. It could be a third Medivac with more Marines. It could be a third Medivac with some Hellbats for a Hellbat push. And adding a few banes sort of justifies my ability to continue to drone, rather than make more lings. So I can take more tech, layer, baneness is done after the 1-1. This is to be safe against the Hellbats. 5-minute Spore is a good time against Terran. They could do third Medivac with a Widow meme in it, or 2 Widow memes. And this just means you already have detection in your bases, which is great. So Terran comes up here, scans, kills a tumor. What do? Push him away, respread the creep. It's just that minigame. The minigame of creep spread. 1-1 is finishing. Lair is done. Bane speed and Aspire. Just keep teching up. It's a tech race. That's another one of the mid-game, or mini-games within ZvT. Who can get a better unit composition? Who can get better upgrades? Bio players will usually be lower tech, which allows them to be higher aggression. A lot of times they'll delay the gases at their third to be able to just pump out more Marines and be more forward on the map. I'm trying to go for a fourth here. There's a decision for Zerg. Where do you take your fourth base? You could take the fourth here, which is further away from the Terran production, which has an advantage. Or you could take it here, which is a little bit closer to more of your bases. It's also closer to the opponent. The reason I went for a fourth base here is because it's creeped. I can see what's around this area. I can't see what's around this area. I do have an overload up here, but if there were to be something staged right here, I wouldn't really have a great place to fight. If Terran gets an army right here, and you can't really get a great engagement, that's a bad spot. So I'm right at my 3 base saturation, 66 workers to the Terran 54 workers. And pretty soon we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of engagements against Terran. I shut down this would-be drop by having some dedicated lings and having my queens in the main. Just saying no. Now this is the key way that Lingbane Muta gets ahead. Counterattacks. Why are counterattacks so important for Lingbane Muta? Well, the most numerous unit you make in the strategy is the Zergling, which is the fastest unit in the game. It's also a very fragile unit. So, in direct engagements against huge numbers of Marines, Lings can be kind of bad, potentially. That was just a big blunder by me. I just lost Mutas for no reason. Because I was focused on other stuff at the time, I guess. A better player would not have made that mistake. So I counterattack again. Basically, you want to think about counterattacks as your way of being savage to the Terran. Just complicating things. What does Terran want to do? Terran wants to go to the edge of creep. They want to take their time, get a nice meticulous pre-split of their units, so they can take an incredibly efficient trade. What does Terran not want to do? Get clobbered in their natural repeatedly every time they try to move out, because that's going to cause them to have to divide their attention between looking at the front and looking at the home base, and looking at the front and looking at the home base. And both of them end up suffering because they're trying to manage both of those things. The counterattacking doesn't really take that much micro. You basically take some of your units, steal them out to a different hotkey, run them up and around. You can do the same thing in ZvZ, in Ling Bane Wars. So anytime the turn is all clumped up, I'll take an engagement. If they are pre-split, I would counterattack. It's nothing super cunning, it's just understanding the basic principles of how the units work, how they're strong, and how they're weak. I have my macro hatch, I have my 4th base. Now I'm joining up a bit further, since I've defended these first waves of pressure, and I'm continuing to counterattack. But this time I go for the 3rd instead of the natural, and I put the Lings on hold position, so they can just bite the SCVs, and they don't aggro the bunker and attack that. Cool, so I got more kills. Just extending my worker advantage. If I'm ahead in workers, then it's great for me to trade out Lings with SCVs, because that puts me further ahead economically. Terran can continue to make workers, but those are minerals that they could have spent making more Marines. Every SCV could have been a Marine. They cost the same, 50 minerals. Another counterattack, that one was not as successful, but I have Burrow, and I burrowed this early, hoping to one day become a Baneling and then strike this SCV line. Burrow and Overlord Speed are really nice upgrades you can just take at any point when you're supply blocked and have 100/100 extra money. It makes your Ling Bane Mute a lot more dangerous. Just taking more fights. I'm trying to take my fights with Banelings on creep whenever possible. I just get better trades. Now I'm going for another counterattack. And this one's going to follow up this Bane. So the Bane goes in, boom, blows up some SCVs, and also damages some. So the counterattack going in can get more damage. Cool. More Ling Bane Muta. And my main goal right now is to get maxed. Get maxed and don't die to mines. Be patient. This is one of the easiest stages to throw the game for Zerg. You might have a huge army, but if there are a big cluster of Widow memes, you can just get everything blown up if you're not careful, so be careful. Now I have quite a few mutas, so I'm going to go and try and harass the Terran production, and I'll defend on creep with my Ling Bane Queen. That's kind of the idea here. And with all those savage counterattacks, I'm incredibly far ahead in drones. So while I am teching to Hive, I basically put myself in a win condition, where the Terran cannot afford any of the counter units to Ultras, which are what? Liberators in large numbers, Ghosts, Thors are alright against Ultras. They're stuck on Marines, because the opponent hasn't been able to make enough SCVs to support a 3 base mineral and a bunch of gases. And that's a very, very standard ZvT. Get maxed. Widow memes, Ling Bane Muta, savage counterattacks, aggressive creep spread. Creep that doesn't give up when it gets scanned and shot at. You have queens that you keep alive that continue to spread. 8 queens the whole game. I don't think any of them died the whole game. How do you conserve your queen count? Anytime you lay a wave of creep tumors, you send your queens back a little bit deeper into creep, so they're safer. Like, the safest point in my territory is probably like right here. It's not vulnerable to any drops. If there were any direct marches, they would have to walk really deep into creep. So keep your queens alive. Spread creep the whole game. This has been an explanation of a very standard ZvT.